we are facing a watershed moment, not only in Israel's history, but also in its ties with the United States and American Jews.
The Israeli government's policies, which raise serious questions about the tenor of the country's democracy,
prevent a two-state outcome to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and promote a narrow version of Jewish identity, undermine our shared values,
and Israel's role as the state of the Jewish people.
At a time when U.S.-Israel and Israel diaspora ties face existential challenges, Israel Policy Forum's role as a trusted and reliable voice has never been more essential.
We are producing credible, timely policy analysis
on issues shaping Israel's future as secure, Jewish, and democratic.
From the judicial overhaul to West Bank settlements to Israel's regional ties.
Our articles, explainers, podcasts, webinars, and other policy content serve as go-to resources for policymakers and individuals seeking to understand the latest developments.
In Washington, we brief members of Congress and key administration officials
to help them understand the realities on the ground in Israel as they navigate threats to the foundation of the U.S.-Israel relationship.
We are partnering with organizations across the American Jewish communal landscape
to provide curated educational programming rooted in our policy resources and expertise.
Through IPF Atid, we are building the next generation of North American leaders committed to Israel's democracy and to a two-state future.
And fostering ties with Israeli peers on the front lines of the fight for democracy.
As American Jews, we have a responsibility to act when Israel's future is at stake. Now is the moment to stand up for the Israel we need.
Secure,
Jewish,
and democratic.
I'm Susie Gelman. I am board chair till tomorrow of Israel Policy Forum, having been in that role for 7 years. And my Israel story is not atypical of many people in my generation. I grew up in a very assimilated household in San Francisco. I was taken to Israel by our assistant rabbi at Temple Emmanuel and his wife with my confirmation class in the summer of 1970. And as they say in Hebrew, Nafali ha'asimon, the light bulb went off. And I went back the following summer on an American Zionist Youth Foundation trip. And then 2 summers later, the summer of 73, so before the war, I was a volunteer in a summer day camp in Jerusalem, and I've been to Israel more times than I can count since then, including spending several summers studying Hebrew at Hebrew U. Really, the entire trajectory of my life has been affected by my growing evolution as a serious Jew and as a Zionist. Our Jewish household was very much tied back to that first trip to Israel that set me on this course. I've been really privileged to hold several meaningful roles in Jewish life in Washington and nationally and internationally, including being president of the Jewish Federation of Greater Washington for 3 years. I was the inaugural chair of the Birthright Israel Foundation, thanks to Charles Bronfman and Jeffrey Solomon, who tapped me for this position. And that began a beautiful friendship with Jeff and Charles that continued through Israel Policy Forum and our work together. Israel Policy Forum has really developed a unique role in the constellation of Jewish life, and particularly around the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which is, after all, our raison d'etre. We have a growing constituency among Jewish communal organizations that are seeking, particularly at this very fraught moment in the relationship between U.S. Jews and Israel, and between the U.S. government and Israel, we're really being sought after because people really want to be able to connect to Israel, want to understand what's going on, want to find ways of thinking about Israel, talking about Israel, and representing our community to Israelis. And then, of course, IPF Atid, which is over 5 years now since it was created. And again, not only do we have a growing network of young Jewish professionals who are deeply committed to Israel's future as secure Jewish democratic and really concerned about where Israel is headed, particularly as a democracy, but not only as a democracy, also what it means under this government for Israel to be a Jewish state. We have established a stellar reputation on Capitol Hill for credible, nuanced analysis and pragmatic policy recommendations. What I envision is that IPF will continue to be called upon as the go-to resource that we have become on the Hill. So this is a moment for us, and we are working to meet this moment. Where I think we play a role is to do our utmost, whether it be in the halls of Congress or among American Jewish communal leaders or among the next generation of Jewish leaders, to preserve the opportunity for an eventual resolution, an eventual two-state solution. And that means we will continue to fight against annexation, including creeping annexation. Israel Policy Forum has been working to educate U.S. policymakers and Jewish communal leaders about the possible ramifications and the dangers of unilateral annexation. As we have seen this concept move from the far-right political fringe to the mainstream discourse. We will fight against settlement expansion, and we will continue to support this administration in its efforts to keep the two-state solution front and center in terms of an eventual goal and a bedrock principle of U.S. policy. I think it's incumbent upon all of us who care deeply about Israel's future and about our linked futures to double down in terms of involvement with Israel. This is not a time for American Jews to walk away. This is not a time for the younger generation to walk away. This is a time for those of us who care as committed Zionists. We need to embrace our Israeli sisters and brothers and work alongside them to preserve their democracy, including, by the way, expressing that in tandem with Israelis on this side of the ocean, who are also taking to the streets in solidarity with their sisters and brothers in Israel.
We are here tonight because we love Israel. We care deeply about her future, which is so closely linked to our own. And we stand together with our Israeli family to fight for that future.
So I think it's time for us to recommit ourselves to the Jewish future and to the future of the Jewish state. I just really want to thank the IPF board and the IPF staff for making it possible for me to have such a rewarding term as board chair. I'm going to remain involved with IPF. It's a passion, it's a wonderful organization, and it has really been the highlight of my nonprofit career to chair Israel Policy Forum.
Wow. My name is David Halperin. I am the CEO, privileged to be the CEO of Israel Policy Forum. And it's really been an honor to work so closely alongside our honoree tonight, our board chair for the past 7 years, Susie Gelman. And what remarkable leadership we've seen from Susie, as you saw from that video. I want to thank all of you for being here, for supporting Susie, for supporting our work. I want to thank the members of our board who are here tonight, and I especially want to thank Susie's husband, Michael Gelman. Michael relentlessly fundraised for this event. I kind of hope he still has friends left when it's over. I had this crazy idea that next year we're either going to hire Michael on our staff or honor him, and I'm pretty sure he wants nothing to do with either one of those ideas. But thank you, Michael, for everything. Really. You know, we're meeting just a few days from yet another round of conflict in Gaza with a terror organization, just yet another inflammatory speech from Palestinian leader at the UN. We're meeting amidst growing concerns of a situation in Jerusalem, and of course, growing and ongoing political turmoil in Israel with the most far right-wing governments in Israel's history. And the vision of our organization of secure, Jewish, and democratic is deeply challenged, just as our mission, the pursuit of a viable two-state outcome, has never felt further away. And yet in my nearly 19 years working with Israel Policy Forum, I've never been more confident in the work we're doing. I've never been more proud, more excited, and more hopeful of the impact that we can make. because of the work I see that we do each and every day in Washington and in the Jewish community, and it's all because of Susie Gelman. So I want to take a moment to just acknowledge, say a word about the work we do and the people who are doing it. And that work starts actually with our Chief Policy Officer, Michael Koplow. Michael is the smartest, most thoughtful analyst on this issue, and frankly, I don't even think it's close. He is our voice, and it's a voice of reason, and he sets the tone for all that we do. He's joined on our policy team by Shira, Efron, and Nimrod Novik, who we'll hear from later in our program, with Alex Lederman, Neri Zilber, Evan Gottesman, producing thoughtful analysis each and every week, and taking on a growing portfolio of research projects from the future of two states, to settlements, to the Abraham Accords, to the future of Palestinian governance in the West Bank, just to name a few, taking some of the most complex issues and finding practical pathways forward. And that work fuels what we do in Washington, led by our government relations director, Aaron Weinberg, together with Shoshana Levitin. Our work is in growing demand as never before. A couple months ago, Aaron called me, and he said, we have 23 meetings in April. And I said, well, that's impressive. And then he said, we have 23 meetings over 3 days in April. And I thought, that's physically impossible. But it is remarkable the amount of which we're in demand. And we're bringing a message to policymakers that U.S. efforts to strengthen and sustain Israeli-Palestinian security cooperation should be fully supported. And U.S. policymakers must recognize and understand the critical role the U.S. has to play in keeping two states on the agenda, in finding policy measures that can advance security, prosperity, dignity, and peace for the region. Now, that work in our community is also growing. Led by Avi Weinrib, we are creating more educational programs than ever before, working alongside partners across our Jewish community, including many representatives from partnering organizations who are here tonight. Thank you for being here. Later this year, we're going to have our yet another delegation for Jewish communal professionals. Our colleague in Israel, Tzuri Shafman, is overseeing 7 delegations this year alone, the most we've ever done in a single year. And our community work is, of course, strengthened by IPF Atid that Susie spoke about just a moment ago, led by Shani Reichman, together with Max Webb, Rachel Mandelbaum, and Talia Harris. Atid is providing young American Jews a platform to engage on these subjects, to learn, to be challenged. And it is truly, truly unique. I want to thank members of the IPF Atid leadership from across the country who are with us here tonight. Thank you. Our Atid program also has a leadership program, the Charles Bronfman Convener Summit, with now over 150 ambassadors all over North America who are taking it upon themselves to elevate the discourse in our community when it comes to Israel and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we're beginning to start programs for those on campus before they reach Atid, and also for those who are starting to get some gray hairs and maybe have a couple kids and reaching that dreaded age of 40. Not that I know anything about that. But really, it's exceptional to see the work we do. Our comms team, Jacob Gilman, Marty Iram, Daphne Neighbors, are ensuring not only we get attention, that we look and we sound good, but producing exceptional educational content online. And I must note our podcast last week had its 250th episode and 500,000th download, which is really terrific. This team is held together by my right hands, Najana Valdman Orlando, our COO, together with Leah Schechter, really, who ensures that we not only take care of our finances, but we take care of our people. And last, I must thank Lissy Dieringer, our remarkable Chief Philanthropy Officer, and her team, Elad Raymond, Becky Lipkind, and Joe Brownstein, who make sure our work grows and flourishes and who've done such a terrific job on this program tonight. So thank you all. So this is our team, this is what we do, and frankly, I could not be more genuine when I say none of this would be possible without Susie. None of it. She, I just don't have the words, quite honestly, when I thought about what I want to say tonight. I don't have the words in the English language or her preferred language, Hebrew, to actually communicate just what she has meant to this organization. She has been such an exceptional leader in all facets. She built an incredible board, and she treated it like family. She represented us well in the halls of Congress, in Israel, and everywhere you can imagine. She was a dogged promoter of this organization throughout her tenure, and she set the standard, she set the tone, she set the expectations for all of us, that we pursue knowledge, that we challenge ourselves, that we hold ourselves accountable, that we hold ourselves to professionalism, that we really seek excellence in everything we do. But most of all, she set an example for the passion she brings to our mission and for the care, respect, and love that she shows for others. And, I've learned so much from Susie at this point that we finish each other's sentences like all the time. It's kind of creepy. It is true. But honestly, I'm just so honored to have had the opportunity to learn from the very best. And, Susie has been my teacher, my coach, my mentor, all those things. But somewhere along the way, she went from my boss to my friend to my family. And I have to say, it's truly been an honor. And while I can't find the words, ein milim bemet nesiti, I must say that the only thing left to say, quite honestly, is thank you. Hamon hamon tada. Al kol ma she'asit bishvilenu ובשבילי. אני אוהב אותך ותודה רבה. We're going to hear a lot of tributes to Susie tonight, so get ready. But our goal here is to have her crying for the next 90 minutes. No, but thank you all once again. And now I want to direct your attention to a video tribute to Susie from her friends, family, and colleagues. And thank you all once again.
Good evening. Oh, wow, those lights are shiny. I am supposed to introduce somebody named Susie Gelman to this audience, but I think she's been introduced. Rather kindly to boot. Susie, I'm looking at you with love in my heart and in my eyes. Michael, your tribute to your wife. I don't know if I could do as well. I don't know if any of us could do as well. Thank you. Now, I met Susie about 20 years ago. Jeff Solomon, who's my great friend and colleague, said that there was this woman from Washington who came from a fine family and seemed to have what it would take to be the inaugural chair of a foundation for another philanthropy. And I spoke with Susie, and she started asking me questions such as, what are her duties, what are her responsibilities, how much autonomy would she have, stuff like that. And I gave her the brilliant answer, I don't know. She said, well, how do you expect me to take on something when there are no ground rules? I said, Susie, please understand something. You're working with Michael Steinhardt and me. Ain't no ground rules. Despite that, she took the job and did a heck of a job. It was really quite remarkable. And our relationship started with doubt and wound up with devotion. Years later, I asked again, as you heard in the video, and she said yes. And this time she was a lightning rod, just an absolute lightning rod. She brought total dedication, enthusiasm, and people skills, plus her own dynamic personality to the position of chair of Israel Policy Forum. As chair, she does things that I don't know if other chairs do. For instance, she sends out a weekly report of everything the organization has done during the week before and what it's got lined up for the next week. She has a personal relationship with each board member and will go as far as she can as a human being to stand with them and guide them and listen to them. A lot of board chairs, myself included, I guess, don't listen very much. We do a lot of talking. But one of her great leadership skills was her relationship with David. What a team. Wow. What a team that became. God bless you both. You know, when she came, or during Susie's tenure, the staff has grown 5 times. The revenues have grown with it. And so has the view of IPF in the eyes of all our constituents. And I think it should be right now that we hear from some of those people. Is there another video of some of your special friends? Well, let's do it.
Susie, I want to congratulate you on your incredible leadership of the IPF. During your time, the organization has grown, developed, and strengthened. IPF has become a key partner for Israel and especially for the moderate, centrist, liberal camp. I know that you and, by extension, IPF, care deeply about Israel, about our security, about our future. This isn't an easy time for those who care about Israel as a Jewish and a democratic state. We are facing one of the most important moments in our history. I always knew we could count on you to promote our shared values, to help us build a stronger US-Israel alliance based on those values, to speak your mind when anyone attacks or attacked those values, and to do it from a place of deep love for the state of Israel. Although you weren't born in Israel, you have always been one of us. You speak Hebrew fluently, but more importantly, you speak Israeli fluently. Always clear, never shy. We need that now more than ever. I wish you luck with whatever comes next. I'm sure you will make a big impact wherever you go. And to David Sherman and everyone in the IPF, Susie has left you an excellent organization. I wish you luck taking it to the next level. Know that in me and my party, you will always have a partner and a friend. Near the end of Israel's declaration of independence, there is an appeal to the Jewish people throughout the diaspora to rally around the Jews of Eretz Israel and to stand by them in the great struggle for the realization of the old age dream, the redemption of Israel. Susie, you have done that throughout your time at IPF. Thank you, and see you in Israel soon.
Shalom to all of you from the President's residence in Jerusalem. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to celebrate with you our good friend and Jewish leader, Susie Gelman, as she steps down from her role as chair of the IPF Israel Policy Forum after 7 excellent years of service. Dear Susie, what a blessing it is to have this opportunity to salute you, my dear friend. As so many years you have brought your many skills and gifts to advancing things that are very important to you and to us all. You have brought your sharp mind and skilled hands, and most importantly, your passion, your heart, your intellect, to strengthening our people, strengthening the state of Israel, helping to create the change you would wish to see in the world. The Israel Policy Forum is a critical platform of American Jews who care deeply about Israel and care about its future as a secure and Jewish and democratic state. And as an American Jew who cares deeply about Israel and its future, it is no wonder that you found it a calling of a moment. I personally watched the IPF grow tremendously as I was there at the cradle of its creation under the instructions of the late Yitzhak Rabin. And I've seen it grow and grow, Susie, under your leadership. I've seen it blossom into an important Jewish organization, an important Jewish voice, a voice that supports just and viable Zionism. and that champions the values of honesty, integrity, partnership, and perseverance. These are qualities that are so critical in this era of polarization, extremism, divisions, and they are qualities that you embody so well, dear friend Susie. So may you continue to leave your distinct imprint in so many other spheres of importance and attention as you've always done, together with Michael and the entire family. I congratulate you all, dear friends at the IPF, an organization which I respect a lot. And of course, I want to congratulate our good friend, the CEO, David Halperin. I send best wishes to incoming chair, David Sherman, and the entire board, and I applaud all of you for your profound dedication to the state of Israel and all the good things that we need to achieve together. Thank you all, dear friends. Toda rabba.
Good evening, everyone. Although I unfortunately can't be there in person tonight because Congress is in session, I would not miss an opportunity to congratulate my aunt, Susie Gelman, on her amazing tenure as board chair. I know of no one else who is more dedicated to the future health and strength of Israel than Susie, and I can say without any reservation that under her leadership, the IPF has become the go-to Israel policy organization on the Hill. This night is truly about honoring your work, your remarkable leadership, and the impact that you've had in growing the IPF, and you have so much to be proud of. Thank you for all that you've done, and I cannot wait to see what's next in store. Again, a huge congratulations to my Aunt Susie.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Kathy Manning. It's my great privilege to have known Susie Gelman for many, many years as a colleague in the Federation world, as a transformative leader of the Israel Policy Forum, as an impactful philanthropist, and as a dear friend. Susie is a visionary and determined leader. I still remember when she and Michael chaired the Federation GA in Israel, and Susie, having mastered Hebrew by participating in a 6-month Ulpan, did her presentations in Hebrew, a gutsy and remarkable feat. I watched her strong leadership of the Washington, D.C. Federation with admiration, and I have seen how, under her leadership, the Israel Policy Forum has grown exponentially in reach, influence, and impact, becoming an organization with top quality professionals who are trusted voices in Washington and throughout the Jewish community. I myself have called on IPF for advice and a deeper understanding of issues involving Israel during my time in Congress. But Susie isn't just a wise and dedicated leader. She has been a great friend. Now, I will admit that Susie and Michael tried to kill my husband Randall and me when she convinced us to come on a hiking and kayaking trip to Patagonia with them several years ago. A trip I later learned from the guide she hired had been planned as though we were triathletes. We managed to survive that trip, but it was a real metaphor for the kind of leader Susie is. She pushes you to reach heights you never knew you could reach, and she celebrates with you when you achieve the impossible. So Susie, thank you for your passion, your wisdom and dedication to the Jewish and broader world, your incredible generosity, and most of all, for your friendship. And Mazel Tov on this well-deserved celebration of your leadership at IPF.
Hello. It is my privilege to bring warm greetings to all of the leaders gathered for this year's Israel Policy Forum annual benefit. And what a personal delight to join in sending congratulations from the Congress to your board chair and my dear friend, Susie Gelman, as we honor her tonight. For decades, Susie has been a revered and respected leader of the Jewish American community, with her fostering bonds between the U.S. and Israel through Birthright, building community in our nation's capital through the Jewish Foundation of Greater Washington, or helping mold the next generation of leaders at the Hebrew University and Brandeis University. The last 7 years as the board chair of IPF, She has been a formidable force for its powerful mission advancing secure Jewish and democratic state as we celebrate Israel's 75th birthday. Those of us in Congress fortunate enough to have worked with Susie salute her for her steadfast partnership. Together, we have strived to deepen the U.S.-Israel alliance, and despite the worsening conflict, we have continued working to advance a just, lasting two-state solution. On a personal note, Susie's roots are in my beloved hometown of San Francisco. It's been my honor to share a close friendship with Susie and Michael, with her parents and her family over many years. And the world is grateful for her family's commitment to preserving the planet with a distinguished Goldman Environmental Prize. Congratulations, Susie, on a job well done. I can't wait to see the next chapter of your magnificent public service. And the many friends of Israel and the Congress look forward to working with your next board chair, David Sherman, as we pave the way for justice, peace, and prosperity for all who call Israel home. Thank you, Israel Policy Forum, for your 3 decades of leadership and partnership, and best wishes for a wonderful celebration.
Almost exactly 75 years ago, David Ben-Gurion declared Israel's independence, calling on the world to stand with Israel to fulfill, quote, the dream of generations, end of quote. And thanks to leaders like Susie, that dream has become a reality. For 7 years, she has led the board of the Israel Policy Forum with passion, purpose, and a sense of possibilities of what we can achieve if we work together. Greater peace, greater stability, greater connection. Today, that partnership between Israel and the United States is as strong as it's ever been. It's based on our shared vision to build on our shared values, values that Susie and the entire Israel Policy Forum have worked to uphold: democracy, integrity, tenacity, dignity. Today, let us all renew our commitment to those values as we work toward a secure and democratic Israel through a negotiated two-state solution. Let us continue to work to fulfill our shared dreams of peace and progress. So thank you, and mazel tov, Susie, mazel tov.
Well, folks, after all those words, I think it's about time. Would our honoree please come to the stage? Boo! Susie! Yeah!
Take a picture. Thank you.
Oh, you're out. Okay, you're out of
It's
here.
your stage, not mine.
Okay. All right. Wow. Can we just go straight to the dessert reception, please? Thank you all so very much. I mean, really, I don't feel like I deserve half of what you heard and don't believe all of it. But it's really true, as I've said many times before, and I'll say it again. Chairing Israel Policy Forum's board for these last 7 years has by far been not only a labor of love, but the most meaningful and satisfying nonprofit position I've ever been privileged to hold. It's also come with plenty of twists and turns. When Charles Bronfman and Jeffrey Solomon recruited me to succeed Peter Joseph as board chair, the timing looked just about perfect. After all, Israel Policy Forum was slated to be the most influential organization impacting Middle East policy for the next president of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Well, we all remember what happened next. Faced with an unprecedented challenge to our mission, we began our work together by recommitting ourselves to that mission and to articulating a new vision statement, one that spoke to why we do this work after all, the vision of a secure, Jewish, and democratic Israel. We then crafted the values that would inform our work: a commitment to Zionism, intellectual integrity, partnership, forthrightness, and perseverance. In the spirit of partnership, we joined with a remarkable network of over 300 former top security officials, the commanders for Israel's security, led by the indefatigable Yom Kippur war hero Amnon Reshef. And together with CIS, we were the first organization to warn about the dangers that West Bank annexation posed to Israel's security and to its future as a Jewish and democratic state. We made the case that what Israelis and Palestinians needed from the United States was not an ultimate deal, but rather a path for meaningful political, economic, and security measures that could lay the foundation for a two-state reality, as opposed to a one-state nightmare. We devised 50 steps that should be pursued, and we made our case to American policymakers by expanding our government relations team and operations. We launched a Young Professionals Network, IPF Atid, as a testament to the value of perseverance, understanding that if we are committed to our mission and vision for the long haul, we must prepare the next generation of leaders to lead. I am so proud that today IPF Atid is among the fastest growing and most admired young professionals program in the Jewish communal world. Could all the Atidniks in our audience please stand up? I don't know if we have house lights so we can see you, but there you are. Thank you. We expanded our policy team, producing new policy reports and launching our podcast, Israel Policy Pod. We joined with the Brookings Institution and the Center for a New American Security to author a new report on what security arrangements would be needed to sustain a two-state solution. And we contributed to another report on what policies could be pursued to improve conditions in Gaza without jeopardizing Israel's security. A report, sadly, as relevant today as when it was written 4 years ago. We analyzed various proposed options for how to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, weighing the positives and negatives of each potential outcome, including two states. We welcomed the Abraham Accords and crafted the most comprehensive analysis on how the newfound normalization agreements could lead to progress toward peace between Israelis and Palestinians. We took all of our policy proposals to Capitol Hill, and our ideas formed the basis for educational programming for Jewish communal leaders and institutions across the country seeking credible, thoughtful, nuanced Israel educational content and programs that cut across the political, denominational, and generational divides that too often negatively impact our community's discourse on Israel. Of course, we also navigated a global pandemic. I had the pleasure of moderating weekly virtual briefings with leading Israeli, Palestinian, and American officials on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Remember, if it's Tuesday, it must be an IPF webinar. And we developed a groundbreaking virtual tour with high-definition drone photography above the West Bank that has become a unique and indispensable educational tool regarding the status of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in that region. And Suri Schaffman, if you're watching right now from Israel between us and the Celtics game, I just want to give you a shout out for that incredible 360 that you developed. We witnessed how 5 Israeli elections in 4 years upended Israeli politics. And through our online 120 project, we tried to make sense of it all for US policymakers and Jewish communal leaders. And over the past several months, we have proudly stood alongside Israelis in their fight to preserve their democracy. All along this journey, we have grown, and we have forged relationships with Israelis and Palestinians, with US officials, with community leaders, with new lay leaders, with new staff members, and with new supporters. When I became board chair in June of 2016, one of IPF's biggest challenges in the Jewish world and beyond was that our organization was not that well known. So I'm incredibly proud that Israel Policy Forum has developed a solid reputation as trustworthy, reliable, balanced, and essential. I'm also proud that our organization has been committed to making a difference, not just making a point, to working well with others, and to striving to engage those with whom we disagree. I believe that no other organization combines our exceptional content, our clear values, thoughtful approach, and yes, our flexibility to adapt to circumstances without changing who we are or what we stand for. I'm just so honored to have had the opportunity to work alongside the exceptional individuals who serve on our board. Thank you, Peter, for laying the foundation, to Charles and Jeff for tapping me to take on this position, to my Vice Chair, Alan Solo, for being a trusted and trusting thought partner, to Elisa Levin and Larry Gottlieb for their commitment to keeping our messaging and our financials in excellent shape, to Adina Phillips, Sharon Bergman, and Jonathan Camel for your vision for ATID and its growth, to all the Bobs, Bob Sugarman, Bob Ellman, founding chair Bob Lifton, and the mensch of mensches, Bob, and my past vice chair, Bob Goodkind. I've had the privilege of working with friends, old and new, Mark Slutsky, Tom Kahn, Rick Rosen, John Shapiro, Martin Indyk, Daryl Messenger, Donna Linden, Sheldon Alster, Rich Robin, Danielle Ellison, and Steve Capel. I've thoroughly enjoyed traveling to Israel and the West Bank with many of you, and I'm grateful to all of you for your dedication to our work and our cause. Together, we make an extraordinary team, and I'm absolutely delighted that David Sherman will be taking over the helm as board chair. David, I'm very excited to work with you as you lead IPF to even greater heights. I'd like to ask the members of the IPF board to please stand up. I'm also so proud of our professional team. One of IPF's core strengths is our fantastic, supremely talented, highly energetic, and congenial staff, which works so closely with our board. And I've so enjoyed the working relationships that have developed into genuine friendships with each and every one of you. I'd like to especially thank David Halperin, who's been an incredible partner for the past 7 years. There was definitely a learning curve at the beginning, not least of which was it took me a while to appreciate that my concept of 9 to 5 doesn't apply to someone who works 24/7. David, you don't get nearly enough recognition for all that you've done for IPF over the past 19 years with your vision, energy, knowledge, creativity, and passion to bring this organization to where it is today. I've truly been blessed by our partnership and our friendship, and not only do we complete each other's sentences, we also sometimes don't even have to talk because we're thinking the same thing. And although we deal with serious issues, we've also had a lot of fun along the way. So David and the entire IPF staff, again, please stand up and be recognized. I could not have done any of this without the support of my family, starting with my husband and partner in crime of 41 years, Michael. Michael, you did an insane job of raising money for this event, even if you didn't really have a choice. It's true. I'm so grateful to you for making this event such a resounding success, for always supporting me, for being my sounding board and reality check over the years, and yes, for putting up with all my mishigas, and there's a lot of that. I also want to thank my wonderful family who's all here tonight, Asher and Mati Gelman, Sarah and Dan Reuven, Rachel Gelman and Asa Kamer, for joining us on this very special evening, for your generous support of the event, and for listening to me yammer on about IPF even if you weren't always really interested. Actually, I think you had no idea at all until tonight what I've been doing for the past 7 years. But you know that you mean everything to me, and having all of you here tonight is truly the icing on the cake. Although I am stepping down as board chair, I will continue to be involved with this remarkable organization and maintain my strong support of its mission and its vision. So many of our communal and elected leaders are worried about what they see taking place in Israel. especially with steps being taken to undermine Israel's judiciary and deepen Israel's hold onto the entirety of the West Bank. They seek a way to stand in support of Israel, to support Israel's security, to uphold Israel's strength as a homeland for the Jewish people, and to deepen the shared democratic values that have long been and must remain the core strength of the U.S.-Israel alliance. But many are also troubled by the prospect of democratic erosion, of extremist-setting policy, of unending occupation and conflict. I believe that Israel Policy Forum is a critical organization, especially at this time. We will continue to uphold the importance of a secure Jewish and democratic Israel for the well-being of the U.S.-Israel relationship and the relationship between American Jews and Israel. We know that Israel's future security and its Jewish and democratic character cannot be ensured without a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, one that is based on two states and one that finally gives Palestinians the ability to realize their national aspirations. The continuation of the conflict, the lack of hope for its resolution, the worrisome trends that make a two-state outcome harder to envision, all of this puts Israel at risk. That is why we do the work we do. I'm often asked, are two states still possible? I'm asked, why should I work so hard to support a cause that today doesn't appear likely? My answer is, if we do nothing, the most likely outcome is never-ending conflict and a future in which Israel's security, its Jewish character, and its democracy are all threatened, eroded, and ultimately lost. And sadly, that is where we're heading today. So faced with that deeply uncomfortable reality, we have a choice to make: to disengage from Israel or to fight for its future. And I choose to be in the fight. I've been so proud to do so as the board chair of Israel Policy Forum, and I will continue to stand along with so many of you in this room to remain in that fight for as long as it takes, because we believe in the vision of an Israel whose security, Jewish character, and democracy are not threatened. We will continue to work hard to ensure Israel's vibrant future. So once again, thank you all so much for being here tonight to celebrate IPF, for all of your support, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the days, weeks, months, years ahead. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. I'm David Sherman, and I was going to say I have the honor of following Susie. I'm reshifting that from, wow, what a challenge that's going to be to follow in your footsteps. I have to admit I'm totally intimidated, but I'm ready for the challenge, David, so I'm all for it. I also was going to ask if we could take a vote and see if Susie wanted to hang on for 3 more years. Any chance? Bring it up 10. And I only signed up for 3 years, David, not 7, just in case anybody's wondering. So anyway, I'm thrilled to be doing this, and I'm so proud to be, really, Susie, more than anything, your friend at this point. You've been a great mentor to me, a colleague. I'm really, really blessed. So, and by the way, great seeing your family. I was thinking probably the greatest legacy we could always really hope to have is kind of the adoration you have from your kids, and wow, I hope I have that for mine as well. So, I'm up here actually because I am going to be introducing a quick video of Wendy Sherman, no relationship, by the way. And afterward that, we're going to be doing a little panel discussion, which Susie's going to do. But can we go to the Wendy Sherman video right now, and we'll get rolling.
Hello, and thank you to the Israel Policy Forum for inviting me to speak today. We deeply appreciate the contributions IPF has made to important foreign policy conversations. I want to especially thank IPF's outgoing board chair, Susie Gelman, who has served in her position since 2016. Her impact has been simply tremendous. Susie's presence has been felt here in Washington and in Israel, and her leadership has spurred engagement on Israel-related policy priorities. Thank you, Susie. To everyone, on behalf of the Biden administration, please allow me to extend my warm congratulations on the 75th anniversary of the founding of the State of Israel. This is a momentous milestone in a remarkable relationship. This audience understands, as well as anyone, the breadth and depth of the U.S.-Israel bond, one that is rooted in our shared values, strategic interests, and historical ties. So today, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all and deliver a simple message. The U.S. commitment to Israel's security, democracy, and prosperity is ironclad, and we remain steadfastly committed to the two-state solution. During the Biden-Harris administration, we've deepened security cooperation with Israel. We've provided $3.8 billion each year in security assistance and an additional $1 billion to replenish Israel's Iron Dome missile stocks, which have saved countless Israeli lives, as we saw clearly last week during the hostilities between Israel and militants in Gaza. We've also built on the Abraham Accords, partnering with Israel and many of its neighbors to launch the Negev Forum, a critical venue for these countries to highlight the benefits of deepening partnership. The United States remains steadfastly committed to the two-state solution. As President Biden and Secretary Blinken have made clear, it is the best path to fulfill the national aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. While the situation today may not be ripe for negotiations, we are actively encouraging the parties to take positive steps now to build confidence while avoiding inflaming rhetoric and actions. In the last few months, we've worked with Jordan and Egypt to convene the first public meetings between Israeli and Palestinian officials in nearly a decade. These meetings in Aqaba, Jordan, and Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, provided a forum to de-escalate tensions and advance measures that support the preservation of a two-state solution. Last week's violence underscored the urgency of our efforts. For the sake of Israelis and Palestinians alike, we remain committed to working towards a just and lasting peace. Finally, I want to highlight the U.S. commitment to Israel's democracy. As President Biden has said, quote, "Democratic values have always been and must remain a hallmark of the U.S.-Israel relationship," unquote. Throughout the course of our relations, the United States and Israel have shared a commitment to the rule of law. We both value the freedoms of speech, assembly, and press, and we share a belief that democratic societies are strengthened by genuine checks and balances. As we celebrate 75 years of U.S.-Israel relations, we once again reaffirm our enduring friendship with Israel, and we look forward to exploring all the ways we can further deepen and broaden the U.S.-Israel relationship in the years ahead while promoting genuine peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Thank you again for inviting me to speak today, and I wish you all a terrific event. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Deputy Secretary Sherman. Really appreciate her remarks. So I think everybody knows, and we've touched on it, we're just a few days, a week past a conflict between Israel and PIJ. We have the judicial reform issues. We have May 29th budget. And what's so crazy is we could do this 2 weeks from now, we'd have 3 different issues. And it's just, there's always something remarkably timely. But we're really fortunate. Susie's going to chair a nice discussion here about what it means to be secure, Jewish, and democratic. So, Susie, if you come back up here. Glad to have our honoree still working, still on the clock. We also have our Glazer Foundation Director of Policy Research, Shira Efron, which I can't really see because of the lights, but Shira, come on up here. Nimrod Novik, who we just saw on the video, is going to come up here. And also our Chief Policy Officer, Michael Koplow. So we're delighted to have you all. Thank you, and I'll turn it over and step out of the way.
Welcome, Nimrod and Shira.
Ahlan sahlan.
Hi, Susie.
Michael, but you guys flew a little further than Michael. So thank you for being here. So in the brief time we have tonight, I want to ask each of you a bit about the situation on the ground, about the current political environment in Israel, and about the wider regional picture. Nimrod, I want to start with you on the latest Gaza escalation. This round of conflict seemed like all the others before it, and it ended with the sense the next round is likely coming soon. Is that your assessment, and if so, how do you see this cycle being broken?
There's so much I want to say about you, but I'm not allowed. And the time is brief. Gaza. The most important thing about the last round is that it was the number 17 since 2004. Let that sink in for a minute. 17 rounds, and as you said, the last one was similar to the previous. Well, each one was different, but they were all the same. The last 3 rounds were triggered by Jerusalem. The previous ones were not. The last 2 rounds, the one before the one of last week, created a multi-front firing at Israel. You all remember 2021, 4 fronts, including domestic Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews clashing in mixed cities, as well as West Bank, Gaza, refugee camps in Lebanon, and more. Every round seems to have its own characteristic, but they all end the same way. They resolve nothing. The same problems again and again. So once we fight with Hamas and Islamic Jihad, once Hamas stays out of it, and it looks easier and less bloody, and you don't know what the next one is, and God help us all that the next one is not tomorrow and Friday, given the anticipated mega provocation of what we should be celebrating, which is the Jerusalem Day, but is being used by our extremist lunatics in order to provoke clashes with Palestinians. Israel is stuck.
Can we get the lights on the stage back on somehow? Is that possible? So we can see Nimrod. Okay, tamshich.
My last sentence. Israel is stuck in a mindset that is a dichotomy, that is either more of the same, and after round 17 there will come 18, 19, and 20, or what we call in Hebrew zbenk vegamarnu, one blow and we'll get rid of Hamas and get rid of Islamic Jihad, and anybody who knows anything about Gaza, and certainly the Israeli defense establishment, know that once you try to get rid of Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other militants in Gaza, you're stuck for decades with no exit strategy. The cost is going to be in human lives, Israelis and Palestinians, tremendous, and there's no way to get out of it. So between these 2 options of more of the same or this elusive zbenk vegamarnu, there is very little will to consider the third alternative, which has been advocated by important groups in Israel. They are part of the IPF agenda, even though they are not on the front burner, and that is empowering the Palestinian Authority, a process of empowering the Palestinian Authority to the point where, with the help of a regional coalition of Abraham Accord signatories and others, we can start a gradual process of bringing the PA back to Gaza.
Shira, do you have anything you'd like to add? You know a thing or two about Gaza.
First, I always have something to add, so I'll take this opportunity, but I'm going to be less disciplined than Nimrod. I can't really top what everybody said about you. I do think that most people here don't know, though, that you embody this really unique combination of being, a leader from the top on one hand, but just the most down-to-earth person I've ever met, so grounded. There's a lay leadership on one side, but to me, you were just the most dedicated, hardworking, smart, compassionate, and kind colleague. And I thank you for that. And I know this is just not a goodbye, because tomorrow you'll be back at work. So I look forward to the next discussion tomorrow. So on Gaza, I agree with Nimrod. I just do think that there's something about not this round that was different, but the last 3 rounds. And yeah, this can change very easily. It might change tomorrow morning, but Hamas has stayed out. And I think part of it is Hamas's calculations reflecting on something that Israel has actually changed its policy on Gaza, having a civilian policy that's much more leaning, with workers coming out, working in Israel, many more exports that are not limited from Gaza, but also many more imports, including dual-use items. And it does affect Hamas's calculations to stay out. And by this, Israel is doing 2 important things. First of all, it is improving at the margins slightly the humanitarian situation in Gaza, which is a positive thing, but it also potentially makes these rounds shorter, less dangerous. And if we can do this for a long time, maybe we'll have some space and distance between these conflicts to create the space for the long-term process that Nimrod is speaking about, which this is really the only solution, but we have to create the conditions for it, and the conditions for it are not there at the moment.
Shira, you've begun to work with Palestinian colleagues researching how to rebuild Palestinian institutions. Where does the PA fit into this moment? Is the PA still relevant at all, and can it be strengthened?
So I just have to give a shout out to IPF for being very bold about this. We do have a project, a research project, how to strengthen Palestinian institutions. It is with a Palestinian partner, but it's the Palestinian think tank in Ramallah, Horizon Center, but it's all Palestinians writing their own plan. We are partners in the sense that we are supporting this, but it's their work. The PA had not been involved in this Gaza operation at all. We've seen Mahmoud Abbas gave a speech afterwards as if it's checked out, as if it's not of their business. But there's no other game in town when we're talking about a possible pathway for a 2-state solution for an entity that would live side by side peacefully by Israel, right? It's the Palestinian Authority. And strengthening the Palestinian Authority is something that we have to do. Unfortunately, I think that when we say strengthening the Palestinian Authority, we mean different things. And strengthening the Palestinian Authority until now has been mostly focused on strengthening the personas at the top. It's the same personas for many, many, many years. And this is not, it hasn't been helpful and hasn't dignified the Palestinians with the leadership that they deserve, let alone, a trustful neighbor for Israel. We need to strengthen the Palestinians economically, on their security front, and the governance piece. I just want to give an anecdote, because we say it's not just about the money. It's not just about the money, but it's really teetering on the brink. I have just heard from Israeli defense officials that Palestinian security forces that are supported by the international community, when they go on an operational activity, they calculate how much gas they have, because the fuel suppliers are not stopped providing gas for PA vehicles because of their debt. So, we're talking about this. When you have a PA personnel having to go to work in Israel, it weakens the very fabrics of those civil servants that's supposed to provide. Wendy Sherman spoke about the Sharem process, the Aqaba process. This is a process that we have something that if we put actual content, resources, commitment, determination, everything we don't have, from the outside, by Israel, by the PA itself, and by the international community, you can start building those institutions back. And it would need courage on all sides, and it would probably call for elections, democracy, and paving the way for for political participation by younger Palestinians.
Michael, Acharon Haviv. The Israeli budget must be passed by May 29, or the government will fall automatically. Meanwhile, the judicial overhaul legislation has not officially gone away. What are you watching over the coming days and weeks in Israeli politics?
So first of all, I'm going to follow Shira and her lack of discipline briefly and just say I know of no other board chair or lay leader who could be sitting up here moderating a panel and could just as easily be a panelist and speak on all these topics with knowledge and expertise. And I also want to say that it may not be evident to people in the room from sitting here tonight and watching these videos, but everybody on IPF staff adores you, Susie. We would all run through a brick wall for you. And thank you so much for everything you've done for us over the past 7 years. So I think there are a number of things to watch right now in the Israeli political process leading up to the budget, which, as you noted, has to be passed by May 29th, or else the government automatically falls and we go to new Knesset elections. I don't think there's any chance that that actually happens. I think the budget is going to pass. But what we're seeing now is a struggle between parties in the coalition over a number of things. There is a struggle that I think we're used to observing over years between the Haredi parties and everybody else, where even though the preliminary budget bill has passed out of committee, the Haredi parties are still looking for more budgets for Haredi priorities, from yeshivot to different food subsidies to other sorts of programs. And they realize that this is the opportunity to do it before the budget passes, and they are holding out the threat of leaving the government. I don't think it's a credible threat, but we are seeing them try to get more money, particularly given that the issue of the military draft law may not be resolved and probably won't be resolved before the budget has to pass. And since that's been their big North Star, they are now looking to make up for that in other ways. The other thing we're starting to see over the last couple of days is a split actually within Likud, and this is over something that was kind of slipped into the budget. I don't think many people were paying attention, having to do with municipal taxes. In short, there is a plan that's in this new budget to take municipal taxes that are paid by large municipalities that they charge to commercial tenants for building commercial space, and giving it to smaller municipalities who don't build commercial space but build residential housing. Doesn't sound like something that should be controversial, but because many of these large municipalities have Likud mayors, it has now become something within the coalition where Likud mayors are protesting and saying that this for them is a huge issue. They don't want money taken from their cities to go to smaller cities. And in fact, the mayor of Modi'in, who's a very popular and prominent Likud mayor, is the person who's sort of leading this charge against the government's budget with this clause. And so we're seeing churn in the coalition. As I said, I still think the budget's going to pass, but we are seeing these things play out in real time. And when this process is over, we're going to go back to judicial overhaul. I don't think we're going to have a quick decision about whether it passes or whether it's dropped. I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to kick the can down the road and play for time. But this issue is not going away. And not only is it not going away in this government, it's not going away in future governments. This is now an issue that is here to stay. And until there is some fundamental deal between the different sides of the Israeli political spectrum, then we're going to be talking about judicial overhaul and related issues, I worry, years into the future.
I can't wait. Nimrod and Shira, do you have something to add to what Michael just said?
Yeah, I was the only friar, so I'm gonna now. There's nothing worse for an Israeli than being a friar. I know. Sorry. So I just tell the following story that I heard from Shimon Peres. Two men were walking in the street behind a certain lady, and one of them tells the other, "Look how impressive she is." And the other one responds and says, "How do you know? We only see her back." So the answer is, because I'm looking at the faces of the men who are coming across. That's what I felt when I looked at senators and congressmen and Israeli leaders and Palestinian leaders when they were talking to Susie. I was looking at their faces, and I knew that they knew that they were talking to a leader. And now to budget reform. I just want to add one thing to what Michael said, which I agree with completely. It is not just Likud municipal leaders that find it problematic, but it is the protest movement. And in Israel now you have three forces: opposition, coalition, and protest movement. And the tension between the protest movement and the opposition are very real. They don't trust them that when they meet at Bougie's home, they will not sell them out. On this issue, the criteria have been set in such a way that the money that is taken from the stronger communities to the weaker ones will not go to the weakest, which is the Arab sector. And strong communities in the West Bank are exempted from yielding to weaker ones. So this is not chalukah, how do you call it? Justice? Redistribution. Redistributive justice. It is not. It is politically distorted way of compensating certain communities in the same way as with the budget for the fact that the Prime Minister failed to deliver for them on the legislation. So before they jump ship, he has to give each one of them something from the budget in order to keep them within the coalition.
Shira?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and we have to remember this is just not the only thing. There are over 150 bills and draft of bills. Each and every one of them separately is terrible and would undermine Israel's. I'm not talking about just, Jewishness and secure and democratic values, but really the resilience, social cohesion, economic viability, future generations, my kids' ability to study normal schools, right? So this comes at in a context that's just scary overall. Yeah, lots to look forward to.
Michael, back to you. Could you comment on the mood in Washington today? How has this government made an impact on the discussions on Capitol Hill about U.S.-Israel relations?
I think we've seen the way in which the U.S. government, from the administration to members of Congress, and it includes Democrats and Republicans, have looked at the judicial overhaul and find it worrisome. They find it worrisome, I think, on two counts. One, of course, is this issue of shared values between the United States and Israel. The same way that many American Jewish leaders and American Jewish institutions have found the proposed overhaul to be challenging to those values, I think that politicians in D.C. have found the same. And there is a real sense, we talk about shared interests and shared values. What makes the U.S.-Israel relationship special is the shared values. If it was just a relationship of shared interests, it would look very much like relationships that the United States has with other countries in the region. And I think that there is an overwhelming sense in the administration and among members of Congress that they want to keep that special relationship, and that means safeguarding the values that undergird it. The other way in which I think it's impacting things is similar to what we're seeing in the region, which is a sense that Israeli stability is being impacted, and a sense that Israel, which has always been this staunch military ally, reliable in every single way, a safeguard of U.S. interests, a strong economy, all of the reasons why states in the region want to normalize relations with Israel, that is being challenged. And I think we're seeing that play out in some ways among Israel's relationships in the region, but we're also seeing it play out in U.S.-Israel relations in Washington. And so, I think this is going to remain a concern. And what we aren't seeing as much, but I do fear is going to come back in the next year or so, is the general tension between the U.S. and Israel over Israeli policy in the West Bank. In some ways, judicial overhaul has crowded that out, but those challenges are coming. And I'll take this opportunity to promote a new report that Israel Policy Forum is putting out that we are almost entirely complete with, that looks at the history of U.S. policy toward Israeli settlements across every administration from LBJ on to the current Biden administration, looks at the various ways in which the United States has dealt with the challenge of settlements over time, kind of the basket of options that are available, and proposes a number of changes to how we think that the U.S. should be dealing with it. And these issues are going to keep on coming up, particularly once the budget passes. I should briefly mention here that, since we're talking about the budget, to pick up on something Nimrod said, it is almost certain that some of the funds going from larger municipalities inside of Israel will end up going to settlement construction in the West Bank. In this budget, there's a 5-year master transportation plan. 25% of the funds are dedicated for the West Bank. To give people a sense of what that means, that's about a quarter of the entire transportation budget of the State of Israel for 5 years, going to benefit about 5% of Israeli citizens. So this is going to keep on coming up. It's going to cause tensions with the United States. And I think that, unfortunately, we're probably going to see more of that over the next year.
Shira, you've been working to find ways to build on the Abraham Accords. Of course, you co-authored The New Normal, IPF study on leveraging normalization to impact the Israeli-Palestinian arena. How do you assess the Abraham Accords today, almost 3 years since their signing? And has this Israeli government and the current political turmoil in Israel truly impacted the regional picture? Finally, how has the Saudi-Iran rapprochement impacted the prospects for Saudi-Israel normalization?
Okay, so it's a big question. I think the answer to the first one, sort of the state of the Abraham Accords now, it's a consensus that the Abraham Accords now are in decline. We hear this across the board, slightly disappointment from partners. Heard this from Bahrain, also the Emirates, of failing to see the benefits of the accords. We are seeing cancellations of formal meetings. The Prime Minister himself is not being invited to any of the countries, even though there are attempts to get an invite. But also other things. The Negev Forum, which was established as part of the Abraham Accords, there was supposed to be a ministerial meeting in Morocco and was indefinitely postponed. There were other meetings that were supposed to happen and have not occurred. Even track 2 and track 1.5 are being canceled. So this is where we are at the moment. And on the other hand, we are hearing those developments, those reports that sound there's reason to believe it very genuine, of a potential opening in Saudi-Israeli ties. So there's sort of the old news, but could potentially be new things. I will say that there are a lot of developments in the region. There's been reconciliation basically between all parties. Turkey with each and every one of the other countries. Syria, Bashar Assad is going to be at COP28. This is sort of there's been rapprochement between all countries, and if you followed the signs between Iran and the Emirates and Saudi a few years back, we knew this was coming, despite and many people in the defense and intelligence circles in Israel, of course, knew this was coming. So it was just kind of funny political accusations that it was the responsibility of this or any other government in Israel. Israel had no part in this. It's not about Israel. I think this dichotomy that we create, it's either or, either Iran or Israel, either the US or China. It's true for Israel. It's not true for the Gulf countries. And this is actually what we're seeing today. Personally, I just don't think de-escalation is a bad thing. Okay, so it could have positive things. We're yet to see if we can square this circle, or I don't know how many facets this shape has of making progress on the Israeli-Saudi peace. Giving this timing and what it would require from the United States, what it requires in Congress, what it would require from Israel, and of course from the Saudis themselves.
Nimrod, you have long-standing relations with many in the Arab world. Some of them are sort of back channels. Do you have anything briefly to add to what Shira is saying about the Abraham Accords and the Iran-Saudi rapprochement?
Yes, and I'd like to build on something that Michael mentioned at the end and how it linked. I mean, as though the domestic turmoil was not bad enough, it is affecting our standing in the region. For the regional players, from President Sadat in the 1970s until today, or until 5 months ago, Israel has three attributes of Israel played well in creating relationship and being attractive to regional players. One was, from Sadat on, Israel was perceived, and to a large extent was, the best advocate for an Arab party in Washington. The road to Washington goes through Jerusalem. And indeed, Israel was, I mean, I remember just before one of the 5 cycles of elections that we had, I was sitting with 2 Israeli colleagues at the office of the head of the Egyptian intelligence in Cairo, and he was not alone, and it's important. Some of his people were there. And he told me, you know that President Sisi votes for Bibi. And I asked him, what do you have against guns? And he said, no, it's not that we guns, but Bibi has been working for us in Washington. That was an asset. You look at Israel today, and when the president refuses to see Netanyahu because of what's going on at home, the Arab world looks at him, and Bibi is not an asset, it's a liability. So that's one. 2, Michael mentioned stability. And stability had 2 phases. Israel was a stable society, and suddenly 5 elections, oh boy, 5 elections.
Don't worry about it.
5 elections in a row cannot produce a durable government, so it doesn't look stable. And its coalition is loaded with arch extremists and provocateurs who threaten regional stability by whatever they have in mind for Jerusalem and the West Bank. So Israel is not stable and is not stabilizing. And the third one is security, military power, and the will to use it. You cannot expect Arabs in the region to see the effect of the reservist protest the way we see it. We know that within a minute of emergency, they will all be there and do their duty no matter what they think of the current government. But in the Arab world, when they see these kind of protests, and when they see that the prime minister is under indictment and there is no government, and one day another government and another one, there is Israeli intelligence has identified indications that all hostiles, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, others, reach the conclusion that Israel has been weakened, and now it's the time to test how much we can challenge it. So when Hezbollah, for the first time ever, tries to detonate a device 60 kilometers inside Israel, it was Hezbollah taking a very unusual risk at the time that they are not prepared for a full-fledged confrontation. Each one, Iran was taking security steps against us that were not successful, but they were testing the envelope of challenging Israel. So on all 3 counts, Israel doesn't look good today, and nobody wants to go out in public with us. So the Abraham Accords countries, as Shira described, are taking wait-and-see situation. They don't want to meet in the Negev summit, and the morning after, Israel will embarrass them with some provocation on Temple Mount. So the region is now taking a step back and here is the link between the domestic turmoil and losing important assets in the region.
So I just want our audience to know that we could go on doing this for hours because this is like crack to us. This is what we do. But we are standing between you and dessert. So lightning round. In closing, I want to ask each of you if you could just share what you're currently focused on or watching in the consequential weeks, I should say days, because tomorrow is the flag march in Jerusalem. So starting with tomorrow, but the days, weeks, and months ahead, whether generally on your work at IPF, but al regal echad. Michael, I'll start with you.
So I'll say I am watching the evolution of the American-Jewish relationship with Israel. I think that over the past 4 months, we have seen deep changes that are also going to outlast this judicial overhaul crisis. I think that the way that American Jews and American Jewish institutions approach Israeli governments going forward is going to be different. And I think that while in some ways this has been challenging to American Jews, we're also seeing American Jews re-engage with Israel in a way that I haven't seen in years. So that's what I'll be watching.
Shira?
I think, I try to be positive. I think I'm looking at sort of the low-hanging fruit, where we can find small successes of cooperation between Israel, Palestinians, and the region, and sort of in the Venn diagram of what this Israeli government can sort of stomach, the PA can do, the international community can be engaged in enough, and the region. And I think there's a lot on the environmental front, on water projects and solar energy. Gaza is now, is going to get a limited attention, focusing on there, on food security in the Palestinian arena. And, as IPF, we're doing more in that regard. But I think it will advance us toward our big goal of creating conducive conditions for getting out of this mess.
Nimrod?
When everybody was focused on the Abraham Accord because it was very sexy, or on the Palestinian arena because it was so troubling, there was a tendency to miss an in-between layer, which is Egypt and Jordan, which are neither here nor there. And they are far more important to Israel's security and well-being and their stability as an interest of Israel. And that did not get enough attention. And therefore, at IPF, we decided to create a platform for zeroing in on Egyptian and Jordanian perceptions and impact and how they are being affected by developments in the Israeli-Palestinian and broader regional context. We call it critical neighbors. And it features an Egyptian, Jordanian, Palestinian, and your humble servant Israeli perspectives on issues of the moment. And stay tuned, the next one is probably out. If comms can recuperate from this event, then it will be out next week.
Thank you all very much. And speaking of comms, before I turn it back to you, David Sherman, I know we ran over time, but thank you all for indulging us. I do want to thank Jacob Gilman, who has put together amazing videos, is not here because he was managing the live stream, has done a fantastic work with all of our communications. So Jacob, wherever you are, thank you, and I'll thank you in person. And now, David Sherman, should we get off the stage? Or
all right, we're already up here. First of all, one big thank you to our panel. One really, really big final thank you to Susie, but we're going to be thanking her for years to come. Go, Susie. Awesome. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Your support was amazing, Michael. As I said, if I'm ever honored, you're now my husband. Really appreciate it. You're unbelievable. So successful. And I look forward to working with all of you over the upcoming years. We couldn't do it without all of your support, energy, resources. Thanks so much. And you probably gather there's dessert over there. So hope you enjoy it. Have a great night. And thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Susie.